Okay, we just want to give everyone's a heads up before today's podcast that we are going to have a trigger warning on this episode because we will be discussing sexual assault as well as abuse. So we just want to give you guys a heads up before you listen to our podcast. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome to
Two blonde bimbos.
the delay to bomb and bows.
Two blonde bimbos. Here comes the boy.
Hey everyone, we are back from our Disney adventures.
Welcome back.
We had so much fun. And today we are going to be talking about something not fall related, which is shocking. We know.
Sorry. If you tune in because of fall, you're going to be sorely disappointed. Real quick before we get started, I just wanted to say that when we were together in our Disney trip, we read every single one of the reviews that you guys left for our podcast together, and it was so
It was cool.
sweet.
It was
I just
very
wanted to
kind.
say thank you for everyone who's left a review. It really means a lot to us. I was just like shocked. I was like, wow, 30 people left reviews. And they were all sweet.
They're all really sweet.
It was very affirming, especially because I know that this podcast is like a labor of love for us. Like, we haven't monetized it. It really is a place where we are coming to relax and to just purely create for fun.
Yeah.
At this point. I mean, I'm going to make money off of it someday, but but
Yeah.
right now it really is affirming, just because moving into any new space digitally can be, very, very scary.
It's very scary, but it's been fun. And yeah, reading the reviews, I was like, oh my God, it was nice to hear like you guys just felt like you were hanging out with your friends. And that was the exact thing we wanted from this podcast. So
Yeah,
that's like
just
perfect.
I love it. So thank you so much for anyone who's left a review. So freaking nice of you.
Well, today we are going to be talking about relationship red flags, how we met our significant others. You guys have asked us like talk about relationships, talk about sex, talk about all these things. We'll probably do a different episode all about sexy things, but this episode's going to be about relationship things, dates we've had, past people that we've dated that were like, So, we are gonna get into that. Rosie, you want to start? What do you have any relationships from the past that were like absolutely atrocious?
Oh yeah.
I have not heard about these.
Oh my God. I would guess, it's hard to look at this person because I think he's gone on to be like in successful relationships. I think that at the time that we dated, he had tendencies that felt like emotionally abusive.
Mhm.
And I hope that he's out of that cycle now. Because I know that like whenever I've spoke about it publicly, um he would like, get very, very angry and call me names.
Oh my God.
Say about that what you will. And I think that when his ex reached out to me to tell me that stuff, he, would say things like, oh, like she sent me screenshots of like texts that he had sent, things like that. And he was like, they're photoshopped. And like, who's gonna Photoshop a text message?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I dated this guy for like 4 months, and it is pretty nuts the resounding impact that relationship had on me. I met him at a very vulnerable time in my life, and he was the guy that my last long-term relationship prior to meeting Houston. So I think that you know I can say a lot of things about that relationship, but at the end of the day, I can't help but be grateful to it because it definitely like heightened my senses, my spidey sense when it comes to seeking out a partner. And I think it made me so like the main characteristic I was seeking was like a person that is gentle and kind and
Caring,
has an
actually
an awareness. Yeah. I really do. I really hope this guy has like gotten better, but like he was just, we kind of had two very different backgrounds. He grew up in a very broken home. They He left home when he was like in 8th grade, something like that, and raised his siblings, which is admirable, but I just don't think he had years to really emotionally adjust. And I think that he got married as a teenager.
Holy
during that
shit.
time. Yeah. So
Oh my
his first
gosh.
marriage, and the woman was she was she was a little older. And
Wow, this is fascinating.
their marriage did not work out. They had a child together who
Holy shit.
I got to know way too early in that relationship. But I guess a red flag that I would tell people to look out for, which is really crazy because I was literally cleaning his apartment. I was listening to a podcast where these women were talking about um like previous abusive relationships that they had been in. And mine never got to a point of physical abuse, but there was definitely like some really like messed up emotional things going on. For
Mm-hmm.
instance, I've had a breast reduction and he told me that I had ruined my body and that I had like
Wow.
messed it up. Yeah. And I couldn't achieve orgasm with him. And he told me that I had like a broken body because of
Holy
that.
shit.
Yeah. And so there was
Just
like
like
a
constantly making you feel less.
He also like had a problem like with my father that like he brought up like kind of organically, and I was like around them at the same time, and my dad was like great to him, like if not
Yeah.
very generous and like excited to get to know him. And he was like, I think your dad's like a piece of shit. And I saw some triangulation occurring, which is where people, kind of like to make you angry at someone else, or like they kind of like get between your relationships and they put
That's
barriers
a
in between.
manipulation tactic.
Yeah. And there were just some like huge, massive red flags. But I was listening to this podcast where these women were talking about like abusive relationships. And at the end of it, they're like, they had listed all these red flags. And they're like, there's one thing you really got to look out for. And this is something that doesn't seem like it should be a red flag. But if they tell you, I love you, like way too soon, like that's something you should look
Ooh.
out for.
Okay.
And he had told me that he loved me on our second date. Yes.
Oh my God. Insert like noise. Like when you like
Yeah. I,
holy, that's like fucking quick.
yes, it was
Were you
intense.
like taken back when that happened? Were you like, like, what are you, did you say it back?
You know what? I did. And I think it was literally, if you had looked at my like the sequence of my life events that had happened like right before then, I think this guy like knew and could sense in me that there was something,
Mhm.
amiss. I had been sexually assaulted like on the last like kind of like couple of dates I had been on prior to meeting him. Like
Oh, wow.
I definitely like I had consensual sex with a person. I did not have consensual anal sex with that person. So that was a date that I had before this guy. So I was like feeling broken and I
You
had
had
just
a
moved.
lot of things going on. Yeah.
Yeah. We should put a trigger warning at the top of this episode.
Trigger warning will happen.
Okay. We'll record it and then we'll put it at the top. But I was just broken. I had just moved home from LA where I kind of like had been chasing my dreams to be an actor, and that did not pan out, and I had no money, and I moved home and I was like working in a Starbucks. It was just like the perfect opportunity for someone to
To
come
come
in.
in. Yeah. To
Yeah.
come in.
And I'm
Yeah.
sure, what's so interesting is that like you may think I got it all going on. I have a great facade. I look confident. No one can
Yeah.
tell. People can sense vulnerability on you for sure.
There's certain types of people in the world that, in my opinion, prey off of that and really can feel that. Sadly, my dad is like that. So I kind of like learned at an early age how to look for people that are like him, that prey on people. And it's sad because they do. They like know when you're at your weakest point, and they know when to come in and like how to say things that will like break you down.
Yeah.
And it like they don't realize, even if it's like a month or two or three, or like you're only with that person for a few months, it like can last, it can leave such a lasting impression on your life. It's so crazy how that can happen.
If you're ever in a situation where you're with a person who doesn't treat you right and then you end it and you break up and you see them dating someone else, can I say that it unfortunately is not your job to warn that woman?
Yeah.
Because I think I attempted to warn the next two women he dated,
Mhm.
and both of them just like I was more than a villain. I was crazy. I was all these
You were made to,
things.
yeah, you were made to feel like a lunatic, basically.
Yes.
Yeah.
And like one of these, like they were both like, stop talking to me. That's my boundary. And what's really upsetting to me is I see how like educated and cool and smart these women were. And I was
Mhm.
like, get out. Like, and I hope to God
It's
that,
hard when you care about the well-being of others, and it's like
yeah,
you're wanting to help, but you end up just looking like,
especially I just see myself in the subsequent people that he dated. Like, we're all like brunette plus size women who like have
Got
similar
it.
facial features.
Got it. Okay. So there's
And
a
I'm just
similarity happening
I'm
here.
just like, ugh. And I know that I'm seen as like, as especially with the career I have, it's so easy to like be like, look at her, she's like a liar, she'll do anything for fame or whatever.
Yeah, attention, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I was just like, it's not my business, and I have to make peace with that to like help these people. And like, the only thing I can do is like hope that maybe by some like grace of God, he's like done some variety of self-reflection and maybe he's grown. But I can't, I can't prevent how he'll treat other people. And
Yeah.
that's something that like, that you just have to like realize is out of your control. The only thing you can control is the conduct that you'll accept for yourself.
How long after that did you meet Houston?
I think I literally, and this is, you guys, if you guys have ever wondered why I'm such a massive anthropology fan, it's because like I was in this like what I would say emotionally abusive relationship, and I needed to like get away from him like towards the end of our relationship. So I just started taking, I was working at an anthropology. I got hired at an anthropology during this relationship. And to get away from it, I just started taking more and more hours. And it
Yeah.
became like I see it as a place of safety.
I
Like
was going to say like a safe haven for you to go.
whenever
Yeah.
whenever I go there, I have this feeling of like, I'm okay. I'm safe, which
Oh
is
my
so weird.
God. Anthropology. How sweet. I love this story. We
Because it's
love
like a
you.
store. It's like a fucking store. And I'm
No,
like,
but stuff like that can really help.
for me, it's like akin to like taking like, I walk into an anthropology and I hear like the music and I smell the candles and I feel like the creaky floorboards and I feel like I just took a Xanax. You know what I mean? So
I have a similar story during the time of mine was my savings safe haven store that I worked at was Express. So like we have very it's so funny that we both have like these stores that we like worked at to kind of like go to.
we got to go to the mall together, go to our safe
Our
stores.
therapy is walking through the mall.
Yeah. I mean, so like for a year after that, I just became like obsessed with my job. And I think that I took extra hours. I was like, I need to be a manager. Like I just dedicated so much time to working at this anthropology. And I think I started performing at this comedy theater, which I had danced with, which is so funny. I went there previously with my ex, and he went on stage and embarrassed everybody. Embarrassed his fucking self. I'll say that. Like he definitely had like a Michael Scott vibe
Oh,
on stage
okay.
where and we went on a night called an improv jam where anybody can come on stage. If you've never done improv a day in your life, if you haven't taken a class, you can jump on stage and jump into a scene. And he
Mhm.
did that. And, improv is about a lot of things that you won't necessarily find in an abusive personality. It's about listening to others and using what they give you and like giving them, gifts of like storytelling so you guys can build a
Build it
scene that's
off.
really
Yeah.
cohesive.
Mhm.
And it takes a lot of partnership and collaboration that just like I don't think that was in his spirit whatsoever. So he and I went to a show together. And on that night, I played a spider on stage, and Houston was in the audience that night when
Oh
I
my
was there with my
gosh.
abusive ex-boyfriend.
Oh my gosh.
And then I didn't want to go back to that theater for like a year and a half. I was just so focused on work. And then I went back, and apparently Houston had asked around, like, who is that girl that like played the spider? And
I love this.
he like
Who
had
was that
remembered
girl?
me. And he's like, I think she has like an old fashioned name. I don't remember her, but like I don't know who she is. And he like asked people, is she in any of the classes? Is any I because I had just dropped into the theater. But then I started going back, and he introduced himself. And I'll say this a million times because everybody on the internet says it. I thought Houston was gay when I met him. I was like, he's not into ladies, but he'll be my new BFF. Like, fabulous. We'll have a good time. And I remember we like hung out a lot. And I don't make a lot of physical contact with friends. I don't like pet people. I don't snuggle with them. I'm not.
I
It's
don't
just
pet
not my
people.
vibe. You
I
ever
know
had
what
like a
you
friend who just like puts their head on your shoulder
Yes,
and you're like,
yes.
I don't have that impulse. And I noticed that my body did that around Houston. It, like sort of like my body had this connection to him before
Sure.
I had a connection. And that's why I believe in like soulmates. Because I'm not a type of person who just like would paw someone.
Yeah.
I have personal boundaries and I respect others' boundaries. But I would do that with Houston. And then there was like one night I was like watching Houston on stage, and this is like not, I don't have this thought about a lot of people, but I was like, I don't know what kind of guy he likes to fuck. I can't think about it. And like there was all these other guys on stage, and there was a couple of other gay guys, and I was like, I know who that guy wants to fuck. I can imagine it. And then I know who that dude wants to fuck, and I can imagine it. But I kept looking at Houston, and I was like,
You
I
like
don't know.
couldn't. Yeah.
And it's so funny at this time, like Houston and I hung out so much, and he like, I'm so blind when people like me legitimately. I just can't. I think it's because I'm used to people being fucking assholes.
Yeah.
Because he would like send me messages and he'd be like, "How's work?" And I'd be like, why do you fucking care
You had
about
like
my
no
job?"
idea. Yeah. You're like, what?
And I had a big audition in LA for an AMC show called Dietland, which it was great, and you guys can watch that. I did not make it, but I was top 10 for the
Oh
lead on that
shit.
TV show, which is pretty cool. So I flew out to LA for the callback, the producer, and I met the director, which was really exciting. And he was like in my DMs the whole time, like cheering me on, being like,
Aw.
you're so talented. This can be so good." And I was like, this guy's really nice. And I come back. I got invited to this party. It was the most fucked up party. I had a problem with this comedy theater, and it's now defunct. So I don't give a flying fuck anymore. His theater was called Dallas Comedy House. And I swear to God, I think the people that ran it were amazing, but I do think that there were bad apples within the group of people that were at this theater. And because I've never wanted to quit comedy, and I'd been at a bunch of like fucked up theaters before, but this one made me want to quit comedy. So sorry.
Oh God.
The woman who ran it is an incredible entrepreneur. Her name is Amanda, and she's awesome. So sorry to rag on your business, but business is not there anymore. But there were some bad apples there, and it just had some weird, like there was a weird social vibe at this theater. So I went to a party that the people were throwing at this theater, and this girl, whose birthday it was, she was not the homeowner. She invited me to the party, and I went. And I see Houston there, and I was like, cool, I'm gonna hang out with this guy. I know him, he's fun, I like him.
Yeah.
And we were doing some random bit about Home Depot versus Lowe's. And like, well, the bit was just that we both had really high opinions of which one was better. And neither of us care. We were like, well, I personally like the color blue, and I think orange is an ugly color. So I like Lowe's better. And the woman who was the owner of the house comes downstairs, and she's like fucked up. And she's like, "Can I talk to you outside, Rosey?" And I was like, okay. And she's like, "This was supposed to be a small party." And I was like, "Oh." And she's like, you're a big personality. I'm a big personality. I see you on social media. I know you're a big personality. So that means we're either not going to like each other, or we're going to like each other, and I don't like you. And I was
Oh
like,
my
okay.
gosh.
And she started crying. And she was like, I went to UT. And I was like, I didn't know that. And she was like, you said orange was ugly in my house. Like, I know that
Oh,
you
gee,
think
she was like spiraling down a
he
rabbit
was.
hole.
And
Okay.
I had really thought that we were like outside to fucking fight. Like it was like, I swear to God, I was just like prepared to take a hit. And she was just crazy. It was just like, I think she had, one too many, and like probably just didn't like me in general. There were a few people, as I didn't understand this fucking theater, there were some random people who just had like hostility towards me. And
Mm-hmm.
then like 2 years later, I got on Facebook and I was like, fuck you guys. This theater fucking sucks. And then like, and then they all came after me. And I was like, yeah, well, it makes sense. But I was built up just because there were so many fucking like dicks. I have no idea. I think they just didn't respect ambitious people, or ambitious women, I should say, because there were a couple other women that I thought were very talented. Anyways, I digress. But so we're having this fight. She's like, I think you should leave. And I was like, okay, I'll go home. She's like, this is supposed to be a small party. And I was like, all right, all right, all right. So she goes back inside. Her and her friend are like, the party's over. Everyone leave. And just like a fucking high school movie, everybody goes outside, and I'm ahead of the crowd. And as
Mm-hmm.
soon as I'm out, they all go back in the fucking house. And
Okay.
I was like, I'm 28, 29. Why is this happening? This is insane. And I texted Houston because he was still at the party, and I was like, fuck this party. This is, nobody wants me there. And he's like, I think everybody would want to see your sexy self at this
Oh
party.
my gosh, Houston, pulling
And
out the words.
I didn't get it even then.
Stop, Rosie.
I was like, gay guy. What are you gonna do? And then I think like a week later, I was like at the theater again. I don't know why I kept going back. Abusive boyfriend. I mean, you see what kind of
Yeah,
personality I had
yeah.
at this time. And I was like, I hammered. And I was like, man, you sound trying to get laid. And he was like, oh, good. I'm sure you won't have any trouble. You're so cute. Like blah blah blah. And I was like, man, I have the worst like gaydar. I feel like I can't tell who's gay and who's straight. And he was like, well, I, although feminine, am a straight man. Like he just like was
Were
like,
you like, oh my God, what has been happening over the last bit?
yeah. And I think earlier that day when I was hammered before he said that to me, I texted Peyton. I was like, damn, if Houston wasn't gay, I would fuck him stupid. Like I said, she was like, he is cute. Like she's very just like
That's so
cheerleadery.
funny.
And I found out he was straight and I was like, all right. I gotta lay it back on. I gotta smile at him and wink at him and do everything. And he invited me to be on a team, which is great because no one at this fucking theater had invited me to be on an improv team, despite my decades worth of like background in this art form. And he invited me to be on a team. And we went and we met up at a bar and the whole group was there, but everybody like left after like an hour or two. And he and I stayed there all night. And that's how it started. It's a
Dang.
long
Bow
ass
chicka
story,
wow
girlfriend.
wow. No, that's so cool though. I mean, that's so funny that you had no idea of the signs and then you were like, oh, hello.
You know, I think that like the fact that I was just sure of his sexuality
Yeah.
really blurred like the compliments, and to his fault, they were like more cheerleadery.
Yeah, I get it.
Like they weren't like, I think you're hot. They were like, oh, hot woman like you has no problem finding a man.
That's very Houston like.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, before I met Charlie, I had a serious relationship when I lived in Memphis. And this person was bonkers. I had been dating him on and off since I was like 16 or 15, but I had like other relationships in between that when he would go on a tangent and just like, break up with me, disappear, be a whore, whatever. But I literally it was so crazy because I had dated him, broke up, all these things. It was the first person that had ever, it was on Halloween. Um, and it was the night before we were supposed to move to St. Louis. And I don't know if he was like, honestly, I knew he was drunk, but I don't know if he was on drugs. I don't know. Because he had went to a bar with his friend and like I stayed with my friends and we were at a party and then we were like gonna meet up at the end of the night. And he like came to pick me up and he was like very not I was like, you cannot drive. Like, what is going on? And he like went into like a psychosis and started screaming at me and like pushed my head against a window. And I was like, he had never laid a hit, like never laid a hand on me ever. And I was like, that's the point where I was like, I'm terrified. Like, I don't know what the fuck's happening right now. And so I called my mom and I'm like hysterically crying. And he's in the background going like, my mom's name is Stacy. And they were like, Stacy is your daughter is so crazy. She's fucked up. She doesn't even know what she's talking, like making my mom think I'm crazy, even though he's like obviously in La La Land. So he's driving and I'm like asking him to pull over. And I'm like, he's not pulling over. And I'm like, okay, there's cops out. It's Halloween night. Like, you cannot be driving. Like, we're gonna either hurt someone else or like hurt myself. So, anyways, my mom catches on to the fact that he's like not in the right state of mind. And she's trying to get in her car to come like get me. So she basically starts agreeing with him to get him to calm down. And she gets on the phone with me and she's like, Ashley, just agree with everything he says, or else he's going to like drive off a cliff. So we are driving. My mom finally coaxes him into getting to a parking lot. We get in the car, and like it was one of those things where I think a lot of people when they're younger, they go through this where they attract unwanted personalities. There's things that in your life, whether it was trauma that you had, trauma that I had, we attract people that obviously aren't the best for us and have internal issues. And I remember like going to bed and my mom was like, "What the fuck happened?" And I was like, "I don't know. He's never laid a hand, but he like grabbed my hand. He grabbed my phone. He hurt my wrist. He pushed my head against the glass of the window." Like I was like in shock because this has never been his character. Um, and the next morning we were supposed to literally load up a moving truck and go to Missouri. And my dumb ass still got on the fucking truck and moved to Missouri with this person. And before that, it wasn't just that was a red flag. It was like red flags of like, I had noticed that he was sometimes flirtatious with other people. And we were in a monogamous relationship. And I always put it as like, he always seemed to be the guy that had all the friends that were girls. Like, oh, I just have a lot of friends that are girls. And I was made to think when I was 17, 18, 19, 20 that that was normal. Like, I'm the overbearing girlfriend that obviously can't let my boyfriend have girlfriends because I'm like crazy. And I realized like, I felt like these women weren't just hanging out with him as friends. Like, I felt like these women were hanging out with him more than friends. And so it was like already red flags about that, like me thinking he was cheating, me thinking like weird stuff was going on. So I pack up my stuff. I moved to Missouri. His dad moves in with us because his dad and mom split up. So not only am I living in a house with this guy, I'm living in this house with this guy and his dad who has no job, who is sleeping on the couch and ordering boxes of pizza and just sitting on the couch watching TV, eating pizza all day. And I'm sitting there working my ass off to try and like pay for basically us to survive. My parents and family at the time are like hours away. And it was just like one of those weird situations where like I had already found a long time ago like naked photos on his phone of like past relationships that weren't deleted. And I was like, okay, I'm going to give you a pass, but you need to fucking delete these. So we're in Missouri and something happened where like I got on his laptop, which I have his laptop password. I didn't have a laptop all the time because I didn't have enough money to have a laptop. So I get on his laptop to like do work. And something in my gut just said like, look in the photos. And I was like, I'm going to go look at the photos. And I go and look at the photos and bitch, all these nudie photos. And I was like, this is his ex-girlfriends. Like, and these are like newer photos, but he tries to convince me they're like old. And I'm like, no, they're not. And I told you, still, I'm somehow manipulated and convinced that this is normal. So I'm living here. And at one point he like tries to steal something from Walmart. Like what? I'm like living trying to afford. We can't even afford food barely. And you're selling like it was like a nightmare. So then we finally moved back to Memphis and we are like but I'm like doing really well with my business. I'm working on a really nice salon. Like he's doing okay. And we get a house. We decide to get a house, a really cute house with his friend. And I'm living in the house. I obviously decorate the whole thing. Most of the furniture is mine. The TV's mine. Like all the shit's mine because I'm the one who like paid for all the shit. And again, I get on the computer to do laptop stuff. And this is like been years of this shit. And I can walk to my work where the salon is. And so like I walk back home, like having my lunch, like going on my computer or his computer. It was our shared computer. And I like had a feeling. And I look and it pops. I see like his ex's name on something. And I was like, what is that? Pull it up, more photos. And I'm like, okay, at this point, like I live in a house with you. Like you talk about being wanting to marry me, like you want to have kids about like this is crazy. So I'm like, no, like I'm too far along in my life and doing too well for myself to like even put up with this. And like I already grew up with a fucked up dad. Like I'm not about to do with this. So I call him and he's at work and I'm like, you need to get home now. That's all you need to get home now. He's like, why? And he starts getting like the panicky voice, like he knows something's been found. And he's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? You're going crazy. I was like, you need to get home now or there's gonna be an issue. And he's like, I'm gonna get fired from job. I was like, I don't care if you get fired. You need to get home now or your shit's gonna be out. And he was like, you're going like screaming. And so I call my best friend. She comes to the house. She's helping me pack up everything because I know I can tell things are gonna get crazy. He comes to the house with my best friend there and tries to tell me that I'm crazy, that I'm a lunatic, that who cares about the photos, and locks me and my friend out of the house. And it through the door screams, you need to get over it. you're never going to find a guy that doesn't do stuff like this. Every guy does stuff like this. Every guy has naked photos.
Not true.
And I was like, and that's in the moment where I went like, I actually just had a person just tell me that he legitimately thinks there is nobody else that is not good. Like that's when it clicked. I was like, there are much better people in the world. Like there
Oh
are
yeah.
people that would never do any of this. So I literally emptied the entire house out because it was all mine, even though he stole the washer and dryer and TV from me because he's a piece of shit. My parents literally, my best friend, we packed up an entire U-Haul in 3 hours because we were like that. We were like, get everything out. And I had nowhere to go. I was like, I have to find an apartment. It was one of those things where like the universe was telling me to go somewhere, but I didn't realize it at the time. I always wanted to live in a real like hipstery old building in Memphis. And I like kept going to these buildings that I loved that were old and creaky and like weird. And I loved them. And I kept getting turned down. And I was like, I've never gotten turned down for an apartment. I've never had apartments get taken so quick. I've never gotten turned down. Like it was very weird because I've never had that happen. So my parents at that same moment were moving to Texas and they were leaving their house. And so I had nowhere to go. And so basically they said, Ashlee, this house will be here for 2 more weeks. You can live in an empty fucking giant 5 bedroom house with literally ghosts in it because it was fucking haunted. And then after that, like you have to figure out like where you're going. And at the time, I didn't want to move to Texas. I wanted to like stay in Memphis and work my career there because I loved where I worked. And I was staying crying every night. I like literally wasn't eating. I was drinking beer at like with all these cool like hipster guys at night, like trying to like cry out, drown out my fucking emotions. I was like eating literally, I'm not even kidding you. I would not barely, I would forget to eat and then I would eat. My go to was a sandwich with marshmallow puff on it and fucking melted chocolate chips. That's what I would eat every fucking day. And I would go in my room and I would cry. And then, of course, I thought it was a good idea to put on the notebook. And so one of my best friends, Jake, would come check on me and he like would be like, are you okay? Because I had literally a shitty mattress on the floor, no furniture in the house. It's a giant home. I'm like scared out of my fucking mind with my cats. And finally, I was like, you know what? I think I want to go to LA. And then I was like, but before I go to LA, I think I'm just going to like go to Dallas and then like go to LA from there. So I pack up my shit. Literally, my parents are leaving in a few days. And I was like, can I just put my shit in your U-Haul? Put my stuff in there, say goodbye to all my friends. My ex tries to talk to me. He texts me as I'm driving over the Arkansas border to Texas and was like trying to tell me he loves me. I was like, go fuck yourself. And I get to Texas and I was like, wow, it's so nice in Dallas. Like, it's so much nicer than where I live. Like, this is so luxury at the time for me because I lived in kind of like shitty conditions. And I decided to stay. I worked 3 jobs. I worked at Express. And I met amazing people there and I worked
What
all the
express
time.
did you work at?
I worked at the Express in the Frisco Mall. What's the mall called? I don't know what the mall's called there. I forgot.
I was gonna lose my mind if we were working at the same mall
How
in two
funny would that
different
have
stores.
been? And I just met the most amazing people there. And I had 3 jobs. I was a nanny. I worked at Express and I was a hairstylist. I lived in an apartment on my own. And I finally was like at a movie theater with my sisters one night. We were watching like a romantic comedy thing. And I was like crying. I was like, I'm never gonna find love. Like, oh my God. Like I wanted to meet someone. I'm gonna sign up for dating apps. And I go and I sign up for like all the dating apps. And ironically, at the time, I was actually dating a guy from Memphis, long distance, and it was just a really bad idea. It was kind of like, I hate to say it, but like a rebound.
Yeah.
And he wanted to like immediately marry me. Like, literally, remember how you said the red flag of like saying I love you too fast? He was going
Mm-hmm.
to quit his job and just move out here, like pay for a house, like buy a ring. I was like, this is too crazy. Like, what's happening?
Yeah.
So I basically broke his heart, told him that we'd no longer be together, and I got on dating apps. And I went on a few dates and then I got on match.com and we were not matched up, but I was like browsing one night because I was like, all my matches suck. Like these people suck. And I find Charlie and I was on his page for probably, I don't know, an hour. I kept going back and seeing and I was like, should I initiate something? I don't know. Like, does he like girls with tattoos? Because like all my photos have my sleeve in it. And a lot of guys in Dallas were like really weird about tattoos. I don't know why.
Yeah.
And I noticed one photo, I could see that he had a tiny tattoo on his arm. And I was like, okay, if he has a tattoo, he's going to be accepting of me. He likes music, like, cool. So I winked at him. He sends back a message. And ever since that day, we talked every day. We met. And then the day we met, we never stopped hanging out. And that's literally how we met. Out of the luck of me happening to move to Dallas on a fucking whim because of my shitty ex who was disgusting. So I
That's
do really
great.
believe that crazy shit happens for reasons. Like you went to the comedy place and you hated it and you couldn't go back. And then you didn't know that Houston's like looking for you.
Yeah.
And then he happens to not be gay. And you're like, wait, he's been hitting on me this entire time. And it's just so funny because I actually didn't know if Charlie liked me at first because he was very nervous to like he
Yeah.
wanted to respect my boundaries. He didn't want to like be too over handsy. And so it was just funny because I was like, the first date we had, I was like, he said bye, but like he didn't hug me. Like, does he like me? And he was like so nervous on my hand. But looking back, it's just because he was just like a very we're two different people. Like I'm outgoing, loud, like have a lot of experience in my life, and he's like very intelligent, quiet, like very like reads the room before he can like entrust in what's happening and like very logical. And so it's just funny because like the things leading up to how we met, it was just like you said, it's just I feel like things happen in weird ways.
Yeah.
But those red flags that like both of us kind of made us realize what we do and what we don't want.
Absolutely.
Like,
Absolutely. I also am reminded of when you said that he didn't want to be too handsy and wanted to be respectful. Something similar like that. I think early in our relationship, like I got like some sexy lingerie and I took pictures in it and I sent it to
this is
Houston.
me. This is me.
And his reaction, and he has since said that he only reacted this way because he wanted me to think that he was like super feminist. So like
I love it.
I got like a corset and like garter and like
Yeah.
my bra was like just like made out of like lots of straps and not like a
Oh
full
yeah.
bra.
Yeah.
And it was like cool. It was like kind of bondagey looking. And I sent him pictures while he's like at work or whatever. And he's like,
I'm scared.
"Does that hurt?" Was his
This
response.
is Charlie. Oh my god, I'm dying. This is why they get along so well because I he he had only dated a few people before me and I was very much more like I had dated a lot of people. I had in my whore phase, like I had done all the things.
Yeah.
And so I had the same thing where like I would buy cute, sexy things and like send photos, and you could tell he was just so polite and like the very like tactical about what he said. And I was just like, I am in a motherfucking sailor costume right now, bitch. You better light up like a light right now. Like,
I think maybe we were both used to being in relationships where we were so like commodified for our body and
I
like
absolutely
objectified.
was. I was. I looking back, every person who wanted to date me at the time, or I dated my ex or whoever, I was very sexualized. And because I was like the curvy girl that was confident.
Yeah.
And I guess in that people, and I did have to like, I hate this sounds like kind of weird, but turn down people because people assumed when they met me, because I'm like outgoing and confident, will talk to anyone. They assumed I was down to fuck anyone. And
Yes.
I was like, that's not a correlation. I don't know where we get that from, but
If
like,
you're curvy, people think that you are like down for anything. And then my personal story is that I kind of became down for anything because I kind of felt like, oh, this is my like lot in life now. And like,
sure.
this is
Yeah.
how this, I bet I may as well like own it. You know what I
Yeah. Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I
like
get it.
really be that girl. And I'm reminded of like, honestly, something that like I have a hard time admitting, but I'm like reminded of it like from your story is that one of the most, I guess, formative relationships for me in my 20s, I dated a married man. Like for a long time, I was that other woman. And it's so interesting being in a loving relationship now where I'm about to get married to someone and I really respect the sanctity of marriage. Like that is definitely one of my largest regrets, one of my, most horrible things, but it definitely like made me have empathy because I feel like I would judge women who were in that same position, but I know that it was because I was in such a low place that like anyone could spin lies
Yeah.
to me that I would absolutely like buy into. And I definitely did this thing. I participated in this like I don't know what affair,
Yeah.
infidelity, like with pride. And I think it was because I thought like, oh, I can't get an actual boyfriend.
An actual relationship that's like
Yeah.
normal functioning. I can see that because when I was in Dallas and there was like a point where I had gone on dates and like they were like, and like one, I could tell everyone just was like trying to date me and like everyone was, it was kind of like the new when dating apps were coming out. And like a lot of times, yeah, it's not as bad as it is now, I feel like, but people were just like, oh, let's fuck. And I was just like, but there was a time where like, again, like we kind of talked about this before, like I saw myself as like, okay, I am working my ass off, struggling. Like, what can I do? And I had thoughts of, okay, I'm going to be a call girl. I'm going to be a person who just basically is arm candy on someone and they pay me to like walk around, go to dinner with them and look cute. Like, I had those thoughts because, like, I think affection in relationships were very like fucked up for me.
Yeah.
Even growing up, they were really fucked up for me. So like I grew up seeing a really bad relationship and then I grew up in really bad relationships. And so it does like mess with your head when you like try and actually like settle down or actually have a vulnerable relationship. I think it's sometimes really hard to find another partner that is actually like respectful sometimes. I feel like I hear a lot of dating stories and people say dating now is just like very difficult.
I think there's just so much like I can't imagine dating starting out now. You know
No.
what I mean? Like I think that we are lucky our generation is because we kind of had like a little bit of column A, column B. I
Mhm.
remember whenever people when online dating like seemed like, oh, that's just what ugly people do. But then
People
it
thought
kind
I
of
was weird for being on online.
yeah, and then it kind of became that thing where everyone started doing
Yeah,
online
doing
dating.
it.
I think that like OK Cupid was like the first thing that like
That's
everybody was
I
doing.
had Plenty
Yeah.
of Fish, I had OK Cupid, and most of those though were like that thing about those were like it was just like a one night stands.
Yeah.
And then that's when like Match.com and all those other ones started kind of becoming more serious. But like I definitely think the dating game now is so difficult, like more difficult than when we were doing it. Cause I think people were in the aspect of like really trying, some people were trying to find an actual relationship where now I feel like I hear so many stories of no one wants to like be in an actual relationship, which is fine if some people don't want to like get married or be serious, but some people are truly looking for like love and like an actual
Mhm.
relationship. And like, especially in big cities, I feel like it's really hard.
It's so funny. You know how like people ask, I think that I get these questions, so I assume you do, about like how to grow an Instagram account or how to
Mm-hmm.
grow a social media following.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people ask me like for dating tips, and I feel like I'm as good at giving dating tips as like, hey, I don't think what worked for me will work right now
Yeah.
for you,
Yeah.
especially like, during pandemic. And then also like like with Instagram, I'd be like, you shouldn't do what I did 4 years ago because it's not gonna
It's
work.
not going to work now. Yeah.
And
I can't give dating. I don't even know how I would feel dating in this. Like, I give credit to people trying right now. It's a fucking hard ass thing.
I think if I had one tip to give people is that there's no nuance online at all. So I feel like that goes for dating too. And I felt like I attracted kind of the scum of the earth because I was like not representing myself in a
Mm.
authentic way on the apps. I think that on the apps I was like trying to be like show like my dark sense of humor and like be silly and
I think I was trying to be silly. I think I was like that too. I kind of tried to be quirky, silly, like that girl. Cause you want to kind of almost create a persona, but then that ends up fucking you.
yeah, a lot of people don't want to be genuine. A lot of people want to be like, I've got walls up. I'm like a bad bitch. I think my profile for a while said like, if you watch the Mindy Project with me, I'll blow you, which like is
You
true.
and me are. I feel like it's some shit I would write.
And
I
like,
I need to find my username that I used to have because I'm pretty sure it had sexy in it. Like I like this is so fun. No, that's how I feel you though. Like you created this kind of like fun girl that
yeah, it
yeah.
was kind of pick me of me. I think I even said something like, "There's a wizard guarding my asshole. You have to fight him if you want in."
I'm crying.
Like you have to answer his like riddles if you want access to my butthole. And it's like that really does. Like if you are looking for like a funny guy to fuck, by all means say that. But like I don't think that's gonna attract somebody necessarily that's interested in dating you
Yes.
with I mean, I think it's so funny. I started watching like really conservative Christian girls like YouTube channels because I was like, these bitches get married. Like, what the fuck are they doing? Like, do I need and I was like, do I need to join a church? Like, do I need to be this way? And I'm like, no, I don't want to do this. Like, this is not
Okay, I literally just typed in match.com into my email and all the emails I've ever received came up. And I have one that like is literally I saved ones from Charlie, but this is so funny because I can literally see all the like messages. This is creepy.
I love that.
I have to find my name though at some point. I'm gonna have to like do it in the comments or something because it was like it was so if I even shared it, you guys would be so embarrassed for me. It was a very embarrassing username. And I'm pretty sure I tried to be like the cool girl that like all the guys would want. Like it was just
Sex kitten for you, 69.
I mean, probably did. Was that yours?
No, I
Do
mean, I no, I don't remember what mine was. I think mine was like I had this bit where I was like obsessed with like hoagies, like sandwiches,
Oh
and it was like a
shit.
joke. It was like my whole profile was like it was like, what do you like to do on the weekends? I was like, go out for hoagies. And it was like, what do you like if you were on a desert island, what would you have with you? A hoagie? Like I was just like
No,
I think it was like hoagie queen. Like I think I was just like
you
trolling,
were
which
just
is so
trolling.
it was
Yeah.
so stupid to troll because like that's not going to draw like an authentic relationship. And I feel like with dating there's this whole vibe of like trying to come off like I'm cool, like I'm
Mm-hmm.
a bad bitch and like what I took
Oh
away
wait,
from
I just found my username.
yeah, tell me.
Okay, this is why we're like literally best friends for life. Okay. Mine was Vintage Vixen 3. What the fuck? Vintage Vixen?
You know, I
That's
don't
not
hate it.
horrible,
I
but
don't
like seriously, I was trying to be like a sexy pinup doll.
okay.
I saw your style in the past and you were very like pinup
Yes, yes. I think that there's like a few options for people with triple D's and that's like kind of one of them.
I was like vintage vixen. Wow, that sounds sexual, but
I'm
like
sure I
not.
had that kind of a vibe too. Yeah, I definitely wanted to look like Dita Von Teese. Like
That oh yeah, for sure. That's why I had like black hair for a while. Like
yep.
for sure. We were the same.
I don't remember. I think I just like trolled. And the one thing I took like from those like conservative Christian girls is they use this phrase pretty frequently. And it's I mean, it's to go with their whole like abstinence shit,
Wait,
which I
what
don't
phrase?
agree with.
What phrase do they use?
They say dating with intention. So that means like you date
Dating with
somebody,
intention.
like what's the point of dating? For me, the outcome was like, I hope I find a guy to marry, you know? And I realized like, oh, the dates I'm going on are not me dating a guy to marry them. They're me dating like does he like me? Does he want to fuck me? Does he like want to hang out with me? It was all very like
Yeah.
there was no like end game and I feel like I once I started like when I brought on that mentality, thank you conservative Christian girls of the internet. I can't take everything from you, but I will take that piece of advice. There's I mean, if you see someone that has the outcome that you want, listen. I don't know.
I I feel like okay, the thing I hear the most lately is like people don't have like personal. This is just because I was literally reading messages. I can
Uh-huh.
literally read the message. Like people now don't have engaging conversations. I feel like as much. And I just realized, okay, for instance, this is a random person that messaged me. And I feel like this is already a cheesy message, but it's not. It's actually like decent. And I feel like nowadays, no one types like this or writes this. Someone said, howdy. First of all, welcome to Texas. Howdy, I'm Charlie. This is not the Charlie I married. Disclaimer, this is not the Charlie I married. I can be wild and fascinating. And I noticed that you love the small things. I'm not good with coming up with random questions to ask, but I would love to know more about you. What do you like most about being a hairstylist? My hair is unmanageable. I usually just cut it off. And I'm like, that isn't the best,
Yeah.
but no one fucking does that anymore. I feel like at least he tried. At least he tried. I need people to write in the comments like their best, or by best, I mean like their worst messages they've received recently.
That's
If,
great.
if you're on a dating app, please let us know what the worst messages you've received. Like, because honestly, I didn't even know I could still see the messages, and this is so entertaining for me right now. So I need to hear your stories.
I just got a little update that like totally unprovoked. I don't think Houston even knows what we're talking about today.
Oh,
He just sent this to me because I guess it was like a memory on Facebook or something. He sent me this picture, and this is so funny because this is the first time that like we were just friends. But in this picture, we're holding hands for the first time under the table that we're talking at. And
Oh.
that was one of the first things that like that was the first move that either of us made was like we were sitting at a bench together, like just hanging out, like after I kind of was like, "Oh, I guess he's straight" and
Mhm.
all that. And his hand kept brushing up against
That's
my
this happened to
hand
me.
under the table. And I was like, you know what? I have nothing to lose. I'm just gonna hold his hand underneath the table. And for
Yeah.
some reason, our friend like took a picture of us just like talking.
And so you
And
guys know that you were, like, holding. Oh,
yeah,
that's
so
so
hold on.
cute. I can
There we
see it. I
are.
focused. Oh my
Uh,
god. You guys are like, "Haha, we're holding hands."
yes, and nobody knows that but us. Maybe Paco over here, who's like right there. That's our
I
friend.
That is so funny. Our first move was a holding hand move too.
That's so
And it was so
cute.
funny because he was like brushing my arm. We were walking and we were walking to meet someone. He's like brushing my arm. And I was like, does he want to like hold my hand? Like, why isn't he just doing it? And then I finally was like, if you want to hold my hand, you can. And I just like grabbed it because I'm so vocal. And you could tell the fact that I held his hand made his entire fucking night. Like he was like, this is dope. This is dope.
When I held Houston's hand underneath the table, we were with a big group of people from this theater that we just done a bunch of shows, and we were at a bar. And he held my hand under the table, and he didn't let go. So we were bar hopping, and he wouldn't let go of my hand. And I was just like, at this point, it just seemed kind of like it seemed like unnatural how much he was holding my hand because it was like we had to like weave around stuff like we wouldn't break.
Stop.
And he told me later on that he was like, I just wanted everyone to know how proud I was to be holding your hand in public.
Stop. That's like the sweetest thing ever. Oh my God. They're gonna have to go edit our shit and we're just like snapping over this. Thank you to the people we're talking about right now because now they edit our
They
podcast.
do. I mean, get you a man who
Get
loves
you
you
who will
and then
edit your podcast, be your support team,
be your
hold your
photographer.
hand through all the crowds and never let go.
And then in return, I just make all my money for Houston. And I'm like, go buy yourself something. Go buy. I like being the breadwinner in this family. It
I
makes me
actually I agree. It's kind of a nice feeling. I think that's a role like that a lot of women are afraid, but like if you're a woman and you're a breadwinner, that's like balling and you should be proud of yourself.
I mean, for our kind of like histories, I think it makes so much sense because it's like I thought I was destined to be the other woman for the rest of my life or to just be a sex object for the rest of
Mm.
my life. And so I get this incredible partner and I'm like, I will earn every dollar to make our life amazing. You know? I feel like it's this like sense of gratitude
Sure,
almost.
I get that. Well, I want everyone to leave your tragic messages or dating stories in our comments and let us know
And
all
your
about
positive
and
ones,
your
your
positive.
happy
Yeah,
endings.
if you guys are like in a serious relationship and love it or engaged or getting married, let us know
Oh, you're
because we have,
sweet.
someone's getting oh wait, this way. Someone's getting married soon. So we love to hear it. We love love stories. And I hope you guys enjoyed listening to our stories.
Yeah, thank you so much. This was an emotional one, but I
This was
loved
a
hearing
deep,
your
it was so
story.
good. Well, like, comment, subscribe, share, comment with all your stories. And we love you guys.
Love you.
Bye.
Bye.